I thought I was being practical, modern, progressive even. When I casually suggested that Conrad could show Harlon what works, my husband's coffee cup stopped halfway to his lips. He didn't argue, didn't raise his voice. He simply stood, grabbed his jacket, and walked out the front door without saying a word. That should have been my first warning. My name is Vivina Marchant, and I'm a 34-year-old project coordinator at a mid-sized consulting firm downtown. I've always prided myself on being the kind of woman who thinks outside the box, who isn't threatened by conventional boundaries. When other wives get jealous of their husband's female colleagues, I laugh it off. When friends worry about their men looking at other women, I roll my eyes at their insecurity. So when my husband Harlon started complaining about feeling out of shape, about how his high school math students probably saw him as just another boring, soft teacher, I had what I thought was a brilliant idea. "You know what?" I said that Tuesday morning in our kitchen, watching him stare glumly at his reflection in the microwave door. "You should talk to Conrad." Harlan's spoon clinked against his cereal bowl. "Conrad?" "My ex, Conrad Ellison. You remember him from the wedding photos I showed you. He's a personal trainer now, has his own fitness studio downtown. He's amazing at motivating people, getting them in shape. I bet he could help you figure out a routine." The silence stretched between us like a taut wire. Our 7-year-old daughter Maya looked up from her coloring book, sensing something in the air that her young mind couldn't quite identify. "You want me to get fitness advice from your ex-boyfriend?" Harlan said slowly. "Why not? We're all adults here. Conrad and I dated for like 6 months in college, and that was over a decade ago. He's a professional now, and you need help. It's just practical." Harlan set down his spoon and really looked at me for the first time that morning. His brown eyes, usually warm behind his wire-rimmed glasses, seemed to be searching for something in my face. "You really think that's a good idea?" "I think it shows how secure and mature our marriage is," I said, feeling proud of myself. Most wives would be too jealous or insecure to suggest something like this, but I trust you, and I trust myself. Plus, Conrad's really good at what he does. I've seen his social media. He's transformed so many people. That's when Harlan's coffee cup stopped halfway to his lips. The moment stretched out, and I could hear Maya's crayon scratching against paper, the hum of the refrigerator, the distant sound of traffic outside our apartment window. Then he stood up, grabbed his jacket from the back of his chair, and walked out. "Daddy," Maya called after him, but the front door had already closed with a soft click. I stared at the door for a moment, then shrugged. Harlan had always been the quiet type, prone to overthinking things. He'd come around once he realized how progressive and confident his wife was being. I pulled out my phone and scrolled through my contacts until I found Conrad's number. We'd reconnected on social media a few months ago. Innocent enough, just old friends catching up. He'd liked a few of my photos. I'd commented on his fitness posts. Normal stuff. "Hey, Conrad, it's Vivina," I texted. "Random question. Would you be interested in helping my husband get in shape? He's looking for a trainer and I thought of you." The response came back within minutes. "Your husband? That's interesting. Sure, I'd be happy to help. Want to grab coffee and discuss it?" I felt a little thrill at how quickly he'd responded. See? This was going to work out perfectly. Harlan would get in shape, I'd prove how secure and modern our marriage was, and everyone would see what a confident, progressive woman I was. That evening, when Harlan came home from his teaching job at Roosevelt High School, he was quieter than usual. He helped Maya with her homework, made small talk about her day, but barely looked at me. "I talked to Conrad," I announced over dinner. "He's excited to help you. We're meeting for coffee tomorrow to discuss a training plan." "We?" Harlan asked. "Well, I figured I should be there to facilitate the introduction. You know, break the ice." Maya was pushing peas around her plate, but I could tell she was listening. Kids always are, even when you think they're distracted. "Vivina," Harlan said carefully, "I never said I wanted to work with Conrad." "But you do want to get in shape, right? and he's the best trainer I know. It's perfect. He's your ex-boyfriend. So? That was a lifetime ago. We're different people now, mature people. Harlon cut his chicken with deliberate precision, each movement controlled and methodical. It was a habit of his. When he was thinking hard or trying to stay calm, everything became very precise, very measured. Did it occur to you to ask me before setting this up? I felt a flash of irritation. I'm trying to help you, Harlon. I'm trying to be a good wife. Most women wouldn't be secure enough to do something like this. Maybe most women would have better judgment. The words hung in the air like smoke. Maya looked between us with wide eyes. What's that supposed to mean? I asked, but Harlon just shook his head and went back to his dinner. After we put Maya to bed, he disappeared into his study, a small room off our living room where he graded papers and prepared lesson plans. I heard the door close, and for the first time in our 8 years of marriage, I heard the soft click of the lock. That night, lying in bed alone, I told myself I was doing the right thing. I was being progressive, secure, modern. Other wives would be jealous and controlling, but not me. I was better than that. I was so confident in my decision that I posted about it on social media before I went to sleep. Meeting with an old friend tomorrow to help my husband reach his fitness goals. Love having a marriage secure enough for stuff like this. Modern marriage, or a secure wife, wire communication. The likes and comments started rolling in immediately. My friend Marina commented, "Yes, Queen, this is what confidence looks like." My coworker Felix added a fire emoji. Even my boss Priya liked the post. See? I was right. The world agreed with me. I fell asleep feeling vindicated, completely unaware that I had just lit the fuse on a bomb that would destroy everything I thought I controlled. The next morning, Harlon left for work without his usual goodbye kiss. His coffee cup sat on the counter, still half full and growing cold. The coffee shop downtown was one of those trendy places with exposed brick walls and baristas who took themselves too seriously. I'd chosen it specifically because it was the kind of place where young professionals gathered, the kind of place where people would see me having an animated conversation with an attractive man and think, wow, she must be really secure in her marriage. Conrad looked good, really good. The years had been kind to him. His dark hair was perfectly styled, his shoulders had broadened since college, and he had that confident smile that had first attracted me all those years ago. He was wearing a fitted black t-shirt that showed off the results of his own fitness regimen. "Vivina," he said, standing to hug me when I arrived. The hug lasted just a beat longer than it should have, and I caught a whiff of his cologne, something expensive and masculine. "Conrad, you look amazing. The fitness business is obviously treating you well." "Can't complain, though I have to admit, I was surprised by your text. Your husband wants to train with me." I settled into the chair across from him, very aware of how we looked together, the attractive woman and her fit ex-boyfriend having an intimate conversation over lattes. He's been feeling really down about himself lately. You know how it is. He's a high school teacher, spends all day sitting at a desk or standing in front of a blackboard. He's gained some weight, lost confidence. I thought maybe you could help him find that spark again. Conrad leaned forward, his blue eyes focused intently on my face. "And you're okay with this? Your husband working out with your ex?" I laughed, probably a little too loudly. "Why wouldn't I be? We're all adults. Besides, it shows how secure our marriage is. I mean, if I can't trust my husband with my ex-boyfriend, who can I trust him with?" "That's very modern of you." "I like to think so." We spent the next hour discussing training plans, schedules, and rates. Conrad was professional, but there was an undercurrent of something else, a familiarity, a shared history that made our conversation feel more intimate than it should have. "You know," he said as we were wrapping up, "it's really great to reconnect with you like this. I always wondered what happened to the girl who used to sneak out of her dorm to meet me at that all-night diner." I felt my cheeks warm. "That girl grew up and got married." Lucky guy, Conrad said, and his smile had an edge to it that made my stomach flutter. As we stood to leave, Conrad suggested we take a selfie. For social media, he said, I like to post pictures with new clients' families. Shows the personal touch. I agreed immediately. We posed together, Conrad's arm around my shoulders, both of us smiling at the camera. He was warm and solid beside me, and I found myself leaning into him just a little. Perfect, he said, showing me the photo on his phone. We looked good together, really good. I posted the picture on my social media as soon as I got back to my office, with the caption, "Productive meeting with an old friend who's going to help my husband reach his fitness goals." Sometimes, the best solutions come from unexpected places. Networking, cha-cha fitness journey, cha-cha modern marriage. The response was immediate and overwhelming. Likes, comments, shares. My friend Marina wrote, "You are literally the coolest wife ever. I could never be this secure." My coworker Felix commented, "Your husband is lucky to have someone so supportive." Even people I barely knew were commenting about how progressive and confident I was. But there were other comments too, ones that made me uncomfortable. "Is that really appropriate?" asked my husband's Aunt Lydia. "Interesting choice," wrote my mother-in-law Rosa with no emoji or elaboration. I deleted those comments quickly. They were just jealous, I told myself, stuck in old-fashioned thinking. That evening, Harlon came home to find me practically bouncing with excitement. "How did it go?" he asked, setting down his briefcase. "Amazing. Conrad is so professional, so knowledgeable. He's put together a whole training plan for you. You're going to start next week, 3 sessions to begin with, then we'll see how it goes." Harlon was quiet for a long moment. "We? Well, I'll probably come to the first session or two, just to make sure you're comfortable. Conrad's studio is really nice, lots of natural light, state-of-the-art equipment. You're going to love it. Vivina, I need to ask you something, and I need you to be honest with me." Something in his tone made me look up from my phone, where I'd been checking the likes on my coffee shop photo. "Of course. Are you attracted to Conrad?" The question hit me like a slap. "What? Harlon, how can you even ask me that?" "Because you're glowing. You're practically vibrating with excitement. You've been on your phone all day, and you've posted more about this coffee meeting than you have about our marriage in months. I'm excited because I'm helping you. I'm being a supportive wife." "Are you? Or are you using me as an excuse to spend time with your ex-boyfriend?" I felt anger flare in my chest. "I can't believe you're turning this around on me. I'm trying to help you get in shape, to feel better about yourself, and you're accusing me of, what, having an affair?" "I'm not accusing you of anything. I'm asking you to be honest about your motivations." "My motivation is helping my husband," I snapped. "But if you're too insecure to handle it, maybe you're not ready to make a change." Harlon stared at me for a long moment, and I saw something shift in his expression. Something closed off, became distant. "You're right," he said quietly. "Maybe I'm not." He walked into his study and closed the door. Again, I heard the soft click of the lock. I spent the evening responding to comments on my social media posts, basking in the validation of friends and acquaintances who praised my confidence and maturity. See, I was right. The world could see what Harlon couldn't. That I was being an amazing, secure, progressive wife. The next few days passed in a blur of social media activity. I posted about preparing for my husband's fitness journey, about the importance of trust in marriage, about breaking down outdated relationship barriers. Each post got more likes, more comments, more validation. But Harlon grew quieter. He stopped trying to talk to me about Conrad, stopped asking questions about the training plan. He went to work, came home, helped Maya with homework, and disappeared into his study. "Daddy's sad," Maya said to me one evening as I was tucking her into bed. "What makes you say that?" "He looks sad, like when Grandpa was sick." "Daddy's just tired, sweetheart. He's been working hard." But even as I said it, I felt a small twist of unease in my stomach. The first training session was scheduled for the following Monday. As the weekend approached, I found myself thinking more and more about seeing Conrad again, about being in his space, watching him work with Harlon. I bought a new workout outfit, nothing too revealing, just flattering. I was going to be there as moral support for my husband after all. I should look good doing it. On Sunday night, as I laid out my clothes for the next day, Harlon appeared in our bedroom doorway. "I've been thinking about this training thing," he said. "Oh, good. I knew you'd come around." "I want to go alone." The word stopped me cold. "What?" "I want to do the training sessions alone, without you there." "But I arranged this whole thing. I should be there for moral support." "Vivina, I need you to hear me. I'm uncomfortable with the dynamic you've created. If I'm going to do this, and I'm still not sure I should, I need it to be about fitness, not about whatever this is between you and Conrad." "There's nothing between me and Conrad." "Then you won't mind staying home." I opened my mouth to argue, but something in his expression stopped me. He looked tired, older than his 36 years. "Fine," I said, "but I think you're being ridiculous." "Maybe I am." That night, Harlon slept in the guest room for the first time in our marriage. When I woke up the next morning, he was already gone, and there was a note on the kitchen counter. "Taking Maya to school, then going to work early. See you tonight." I stared at the note, written in Harlan's precise handwriting, and felt the first real flutter of anxiety in my chest. But I pushed it down. I was right about this. I knew I was right. I just had to prove it. The validation from social media was intoxicating. Every like, every comment praising my confidence and modern approach to marriage felt like proof that I was right and Harlon was wrong. So I doubled down. I started posting more frequently about our fitness journey, photos of healthy meals I was preparing to support my husband's goals, inspirational quotes about trust and communication in marriage, subtle hints about how some people weren't ready for progressive relationships. At work, my colleagues started commenting on my posts. During our Monday morning team meeting, my boss Priya pulled me aside. "Vivina, I wanted to talk to you about your social media presence lately." I felt a flutter of pride. "Oh, people have been really responding to my posts about marriage and trust. I think it's important to show that modern relationships can work differently." Priya's expression was carefully neutral. "I'm sure your intentions are good, but some of the content has been quite personal. And since your social media is linked to your professional profile, I wanted to make sure you're thinking about how it reflects on the company." The criticism stung. "I don't see how being open about my marriage reflects poorly on anyone." "It's not about being open, it's about boundaries, professional boundaries." I nodded and smiled, but inside I was fuming. Even Priya was jealous of my confidence. She'd been married to the same boring accountant for 15 years. Of course she couldn't understand what a truly secure marriage looked like. That afternoon, I decided to surprise Harlon at Conrad's gym. I told myself it was just to see how his first session had gone, to be supportive. But if I was being honest, and I wasn't, not even with myself, I wanted to see Conrad again. The fitness studio was in a converted warehouse downtown, all exposed beams and polished concrete floors. Through the large windows, I could see Harlon on a treadmill, Conrad standing beside him with a clipboard. They were talking, and Harlon was actually smiling, the first genuine smile I'd seen from him in days. I felt a complicated mix of emotions. Relief that Harlon seemed to be enjoying himself, satisfaction that my plan was working, and something else, something that made my stomach flutter as I watched Conrad's easy confidence, the way he moved with athletic grace. I pushed through the glass doors, my heels clicking on the concrete floor. "Surprise!" I called out. Both men turned. Harlan's smile faded immediately. Conrad's widened. "Vivina, what are you doing here?" "I thought I'd stop by and see how things were going. This place is amazing, Conrad." I could feel Harlan's eyes on me as I looked around the studio, taking in the high-end equipment, the motivational posters, the wall of before and after photos of Conrad's success stories. "We were just finishing up," Harlon said quietly. "Already, but I just got here." I moved closer to Conrad, close enough to smell his cologne again. "How did he do? Was he a good student?" Conrad glanced between Harlon and me, and I caught something in his expression. Amusement, maybe. Or calculation. "He did great. Natural athlete, just needs to build back his confidence." "See," I said to Harlon, "I told you Conrad was the right person for this." Harlon was gathering his things with sharp, efficient movements. "I should get home. Maya will be wondering where I am." "Oh, she's at my mother's for the afternoon. We have plenty of time." I turned to Conrad. "Could you show me around? I'd love to see the whole facility." "Vavina." Harlan's voice was low, warning. "What? I'm just being friendly." Conrad seemed to sense the tension, but rather than defuse it, he seemed energized by it. "Sure, I'd be happy to give you the tour." For the next 20 minutes, Conrad walked me through his studio, explaining equipment, showing off the juice bar, the changing rooms, the private training areas. I was very aware of Harlon trailing behind us, silent and increasingly tense. "And this is where I do my social media content," Conrad said, gesturing to a corner set up with professional lighting and a ring light. "I post a lot of client success stories, workout tips, that kind of thing." "Oh, we should take a photo," I said impulsively, "for your client testimonial wall or whatever." "Vavina, no," Harlon said firmly, but I was already posing next to Conrad, both of us smiling at his phone camera. His arm went around my waist, and I leaned into him, feeling bold and rebellious and validated. "Perfect," Conrad said, showing us the photo. "You two look great together." The words hung in the air. I felt my cheeks flush, but not with embarrassment, with excitement. "I meant all three of us," Conrad corrected quickly, but the damage was done. Harlon was staring at the photo on Conrad's phone, his face completely expressionless. Then he turned and walked toward the exit without a word. "Harlon, wait!" I called after him, but he was already pushing through the glass doors. I found him in the parking lot, leaning against our car with his arms crossed. "What is wrong with you?" I demanded. "What's wrong with me?" "Vavina, do you have any idea how that looked in there?" "How what looked? I was being friendly. I was supporting your fitness journey." "You were flirting with your ex-boyfriend right in front of me." "I was not flirting. God, Harlon, when did you become so paranoid and insecure?" He stared at me for a long moment, and I saw something die in his eyes. "You're right," he said quietly. "I must be imagining things." But his tone suggested he wasn't imagining anything at all. That night, I posted the photo Conrad had taken of us on my social media, along with a caption about supporting local businesses and old friends. The response was immediate and polarizing. My friend Marina and several others loved it, calling me brave and secure. But there were other comments too. "This is inappropriate," wrote Harlan's Aunt Lydia. "Maybe some things should stay private," commented my mother Rosa. "Yikes," wrote someone from Harlan's school, followed by a series of concerned face emojis. I deleted the negative comments and blocked Lydia. She was just a bitter old woman who couldn't understand modern relationships. But as the evening wore on, I noticed something troubling. Harlan wasn't just quiet, he was methodical. He spent 2 hours in his study, and I could hear the printer running, the soft sound of papers being shuffled and organized. When I knocked on the door to ask if he wanted some tea, he didn't answer. When I tried the handle, it was locked. For the first time since this whole thing started, I felt a flutter of real unease. What was he doing in there? What was he printing? I pressed my ear to the door and heard the soft click of a file cabinet opening and closing. "Harlan?" I called softly. Still no answer. I went to bed alone that night, and for the first time in days, I didn't check my social media before falling asleep. Instead, I lay in the dark, listening to the sounds of my husband moving around in his study until well past midnight. In the morning, I found a folder on the kitchen counter, labeled with my name in Harlan's precise handwriting. Inside were printouts of all my recent social media posts, screenshots of comments, and what looked like a timeline of events. At the bottom of the folder was a single sheet of paper with a phone number and the words Dr. Sarah Chen, marriage counselor, written in Harlan's careful script. I stared at the folder for a long time, my coffee growing cold in my hands. Then I threw the whole thing in the trash. I was right about this. I knew I was right. But for the first time, I wondered if being right was going to cost me everything. The family dinner at Romano's restaurant was supposed to be a celebration of my father-in-law's 68th birthday. I'd chosen my outfit carefully, a dress that was stylish but not too attention-grabbing, jewelry that suggested confidence without being flashy. I wanted to show Harlan's family that I was the same Vivina they'd always known, that all this social media attention hadn't changed me. But the moment we walked into the restaurant, I could feel the tension. Harlan's brother Nate barely looked at me when we approached the table. His wife Jessica gave me a tight smile that didn't reach her eyes. Aunt Lydia, who I'd blocked on social media just days before, openly glared. "Vivina," she said coolly when I leaned in to give her the customary hug. "How interesting to see you." My mother-in-law Rosa was more diplomatic, but I caught the way she looked at Harlan, concerned, protective. "How's everyone doing?" I asked brightly, settling into my chair next to Harlan. Maya immediately climbed into my lap, and I felt grateful for her innocent warmth in the sea of cold shoulders. "We're doing fine," Nate said pointedly, "though we've been seeing quite a lot of you online lately." I felt my cheeks warm. "Oh, you mean my posts about supporting Harlan's fitness journey? I think it's important to be open about marriage, don't you?" "Open," Lydia repeated, loading the word with disdain. "Is that what we're calling it?" "Lydia," Rosa warned quietly. But Lydia wasn't finished. "I'm sorry, but someone needs to say something. Vivina, what you're doing is embarrassing. To yourself, to Harlan, to this family." "What I'm doing is being a supportive wife," I shot back. "I'm sorry if that threatens you, but some of us aren't stuck in 1950. "Threatening?" Lydia's voice rose. "Honey, you're posting pictures of yourself draped all over your ex-boyfriend and calling it marriage support. That's not threatening, it's pathetic." The restaurant suddenly felt very quiet. I was aware of other diners glancing our way, of Maya's small body tensing in my lap. "I think that's enough," Harlan said quietly. But he wasn't looking at Lydia. He was looking at me. "No, it's not enough," Nate interjected. "Harlan, I love you like a brother, but I can't sit here and watch this anymore. Your wife is humiliating you publicly, and you're just taking it." "Nate," Rosa started. "No, Mum. Someone has to say it. Vivina, whatever game you think you're playing, it's not cute. It's not modern. It's cruel." I felt tears prick my eyes, but they were tears of anger, not shame. "I can't believe this. I try to help my husband. I show confidence in my marriage, and you all attack me for it." "Help him?" Jessica spoke for the first time, her voice sharp. "By parading around with your ex-boyfriend? By posting photos that make it look like you're having an affair? I am not having an affair." "Then why does it look like you are?" Lydia demanded. Maya started to cry, overwhelmed by the adult voices raised around her. Harlan immediately stood and lifted her into his arms, whispering soothing words into her ear. "Look what you've done," I said to the table. "You've upset Maya." "What we've done?" Nate's voice was incredulous. "Vivina, you've been broadcasting your inappropriate relationship all over social media, and you're blaming us for being upset about it." "It's not inappropriate. Conrad is helping Harlan get in shape." "Conrad doesn't give a damn about Harlan getting in shape," Jessica said bluntly. "He's enjoying the attention from a married woman, and you're too caught up in the drama to see it." I looked around the table at their faces, disappointed, angry, concerned. Then I looked at Harlan, hoping for support, for him to defend me, but he was focused entirely on Maya, rocking her gently and avoiding my eyes. "I can't believe this," I said, standing abruptly. "I try to be progressive, to show that marriage can be based on trust instead of jealousy, and you all gang up on me like I'm some kind of criminal." "Sit down, Vivina," Rosa said firmly. "This is your father-in-law's birthday dinner." "No, I think I've heard enough. Clearly this family isn't ready for a woman who thinks for herself." I grabbed my purse and headed for the exit, expecting Harlon to follow me, to choose his wife over his judgmental family. But when I reached the parking lot and turned around, he wasn't there. I waited by our car for 20 minutes before my phone buzzed with a text from Harlon. "Took Maya home with Nate and Jessica. We'll call you later." I drove home alone, fuming. How dare they judge me? How dare they make me feel like the villain when I was just trying to be a good, supportive wife? But when I got home and opened social media to vent about my experience, I found something that made my blood run cold. Someone had posted a video from the restaurant. The angle suggested it had been taken from another table, probably by someone who recognized me from my recent posts. The video showed me arguing with Harlan's family, my voice raised, Maya crying in Harlan's arms. The caption read, "When modern marriage meets reality. Yikes." The video had been shared dozens of times already. The comments were brutal. "This is so embarrassing. That poor husband. Someone's having a public meltdown. This is what happens when you air your dirty laundry online." I tried to report the video, to get it taken down, but it was too late. It was spreading across multiple platforms, being shared by people I didn't even know. My phone started buzzing with notifications. Friends, co-workers, distant relatives all seeing the video, all watching my public humiliation. I turned off my phone and sat in my empty apartment, the silence pressing in around me like a weight. For the first time since this whole thing started, I wondered if I had made a mistake. But even as the thought crossed my mind, I pushed it away. I was right. I was being progressive and confident and modern. The problem wasn't me. It was everyone else's inability to handle a woman who refused to be controlled by outdated social expectations. I was right. I had to be right. Because if I wasn't, then I had just destroyed my marriage and humiliated my family for nothing. The video from the restaurant had been viewed over 10,000 times by Tuesday morning. I knew because I kept checking, obsessively refreshing the page, even though each view felt like a punch to the gut. At work, the atmosphere was different. Conversation stopped when I walked into rooms. My co-workers gave me sympathetic smiles that felt more like pity than support. During our weekly team meeting, Priya asked to speak with me privately afterward. "Vivina, we need to talk about your social media presence." I felt my stomach drop. "What about it?" "The video from this weekend has been shared by several of our clients. Your personal situation is becoming a professional liability." "That video was taken without my consent. I was defending myself against my husband's judgmental family." Priya's expression remained carefully neutral. "I understand this is a difficult time for you personally, but the company's reputation is at stake. I'm going to need you to take some time off while we figure out how to handle this." "You're suspending me?" "I'm giving you paid leave to sort out your personal situation. When you come back, we'll need to have a serious discussion about professional boundaries." I walked out of that meeting, feeling like the ground was shifting beneath my feet. This was spiraling out of control. All I had done was try to help my husband and show confidence in my marriage. How had it turned into this? At home that evening, I found Harlon in his study again. The door was closed, but not locked this time. I could hear him on the phone, his voice low and serious. "Yes, I understand the timeline," he was saying. "How long before the papers are ready?" My blood turned to ice. "Papers? What papers?" I pressed my ear to the door, straining to hear. "I want everything documented. Every post, every photo, every public incident. Yes, including the restaurant video." He was talking to a lawyer. My husband was talking to a divorce lawyer. I stumbled backward, my heart pounding. This couldn't be happening. Yes, Things had gotten a little out of hand, but divorce, over a few social media posts. I needed to fix this. I needed to show him that I was still the woman he married, that this whole situation with Conrad was just a misunderstanding. I grabbed my phone and started deleting posts. The gym photo with Conrad, the coffee shop selfie, the inspirational quotes about trust and modern marriage. I deleted everything from the past month, frantically trying to erase the evidence of my progressive behavior. But it was too late. Screenshots lived forever on the internet, and I had no control over what other people had saved or shared. My phone buzzed with a text from Conrad. "Hey, saw the restaurant video. You okay? Want to talk?" The message should have felt supportive, but instead it filled me with dread. Conrad reaching out now, when my marriage was falling apart, when Harlon was talking to lawyers. It looked exactly like what everyone was saying it was. I didn't respond to the text. Instead, I deleted Conrad's number from my phone and blocked him on all social media platforms. But the damage was done. That night, Harlon slept in the guest room again. In the morning, I found him in the kitchen making coffee, already dressed for work. "Harlon, we need to talk." "Do we?" I deleted the posts, all of them. I know things got out of hand, but I can fix this. He poured coffee into a travel mug with mechanical precision. "You think this is about social media posts?" "Isn't it?" He finally looked at me, and his expression was unlike anything I'd ever seen from him. Not angry, not hurt, just tired. Deeply, profoundly tired. "Vivina, you invited your ex-boyfriend into our marriage. You flirted with him in front of me. You posted pictures that made it look like you were having an affair. You defended all of this by calling it progressive and modern. And when my family expressed concern, you had a public meltdown that's now been viewed by thousands of people." "I was trying to help you." "No." His voice was quiet but firm. "You were trying to prove something, about yourself, about our marriage, about how enlightened and confident you are. But you used me to do it. You used our marriage as a prop in whatever performance you were putting on. That's not true. Isn't it? When was the last time you asked what I wanted? What I needed? When was the last time you considered how your actions might affect Maya, or me, or our family?" I opened my mouth to argue, but no words came. Because he was right, and we both knew it. "I've been documenting everything," he said quietly. "Every post, every photo, every public incident. My lawyer says I have grounds for divorce based on emotional abandonment and public humiliation." "Your lawyer? Did you think I would just sit there and take it forever? Did you think I had no breaking point?" Tears were streaming down my face now. "Harlon, please. I made mistakes, but we can fix this. We can go to counseling. We can work it out. I left you information about a marriage counselor weeks ago. You threw it in the trash." He knew. Of course he knew. "I love you," I whispered. "I loved you too," he said, "but I don't know who you are anymore. And I don't think you do either." He picked up his briefcase and headed for the door. "Where are you going?" "To work, then to my lawyer's office. The papers should be ready by the end of the week." After he left, I sat in our kitchen surrounded by the wreckage of my marriage and tried to understand how I had gotten here. I had been trying to be progressive, confident, modern. I had been trying to show the world what a secure marriage looked like. Instead, I had destroyed everything. My phone buzzed with a notification. Someone had tagged me in a new post. "Wife goals or home wrecker? You decide." I turned off the phone and buried my face in my hands. For the first time in weeks, I had no audience, no likes, no comments to validate my choices. I was completely, utterly alone. The envelope arrived on a Thursday morning, delivered by a man in a grey suit who asked for my identification before placing it in my hands. I knew what it was before I opened it, but seeing the words, "Petition for Dissolution of Marriage," in official legal typeface, still felt like a physical blow. Harlon had been thorough, methodical. The documentation was extensive, screenshots of every social media post, printouts of every photo, a timeline of events that painted a picture of a marriage destroyed by one person's need for attention and validation. But it was the custody arrangement that broke me. Harlon was asking for primary custody of Maya, with supervised visitation for me until I completed counseling and demonstrated stable behavior patterns. My daughter. He was taking my daughter. I called him immediately, my hands shaking as I dialed. Harlon, please, we need to talk about this. Everything you need to know is in the papers, Vivina. You can't take Maya from me. I'm her mother. You're her mother who had a public meltdown at a family dinner. You're her mother who's been so focused on social media drama that you barely notice she's been having nightmares for weeks. She's having nightmares. About Mommy and Daddy fighting, about why Daddy looks sad all the time, about why strangers at school know things about our family that she doesn't understand. Each word was like a knife. I didn't know, because you weren't paying attention. You were too busy performing for your online audience. I sank onto my couch, the legal papers scattered around me like evidence of my failures. What do you want from me, Harlon? What can I do to fix this? Nothing. It's too late. It can't be too late. We have 8 years together. We have Maya. We have a life. We had a life. You traded it for social media likes and validation from strangers. The line went quiet for a long moment. I could hear voices in the background. He was at school, probably between classes. Harlon, please. I know I made mistakes, but I love you. I love our family. Do you? Or do you love the idea of being seen as someone who has a perfect family? The question hit me like a slap because I couldn't answer it. Not honestly. I have to go, he said quietly. My lawyer will be in touch about the custody arrangement and asset division. After he hung up, I sat in my empty apartment and tried to figure out how to salvage something from the wreckage. I thought about calling Conrad, about reaching out to the one person who might understand what I was going through. But when I picked up my phone, I saw that he had posted a new photo on social media. Himself with a beautiful blonde woman, both of them in workout clothes, both smiling at the camera. The caption read, "New client, new goals, new energy." He had moved on. Of course he had. I had been entertainment for him, a married woman willing to play with fire for his amusement. Now that the fire had burned down my life, he was on to the next source of drama. I scrolled through my social media feeds, looking for the validation that had once felt so important, but my follower count had dropped dramatically. The friends who had once praised my confidence and modern approach were now conspicuously silent. The comments on my remaining posts were either pitying or critical. I had performed for an audience that never really cared about me, and in doing so, I had lost the people who actually did. The next few weeks passed in a blur of legal meetings and custody evaluations. I had to undergo psychological testing, parenting classes, and supervise visits with my own daughter. Maya was confused and hurt, asking questions I couldn't answer without admitting that Mommy had made terrible choices. "Why can't you live with us anymore?" she asked during one of our supervised visits at a sterile family services office. "Mommy and Daddy need some time apart," I said, the words tasting like ash in my mouth. "Because you were mean to Daddy?" The question came from my 7-year-old daughter with the brutal honesty that only children possess. I made some mistakes, baby. I hurt Daddy's feelings, and now we need to figure out how to fix things. Can you say sorry?" "I tried, sweetheart, but sometimes sorry isn't enough." Maya considered this with the seriousness of a child trying to understand adult failures. "Maybe you could try harder," she said finally, but there was no trying harder. The divorce was finalized on a cold Tuesday in February, exactly 6 months after I had suggested that Conrad coach my husband. The irony wasn't lost on me. It had taken half a year to destroy what had taken 8 years to build. Harlon got primary custody of Maya, the house, and most of our assets. I got supervised visitation, a small apartment across town, and the knowledge that I had destroyed my family for the sake of social media validation and the attention of a man who had never cared about me at all. At the final hearing, Harlon's lawyer presented a folder thick with evidence. Every post, every photo, every public humiliation documented with the methodical precision that was so characteristic of my ex-husband. The judge reviewed it all with the dispassionate attention of someone who had seen too many marriages destroyed by social media and poor judgment. "Mrs. Marchant," the judge said to me, "I want you to understand that your actions over the past several months demonstrate a pattern of behavior that prioritize public attention over your family's well-being. The court finds that Mr. Marchant's request for primary custody is in the best interests of the child." I nodded, unable to speak past the lump in my throat. As we left the courthouse, Harlon walked past me without a word. He looked older, worn down by months of legal battles and public humiliation, but there was something else in his posture: relief. The relief of a man who had finally escaped a situation that was slowly destroying him. I wanted to say something, to apologize one more time, to beg for another chance. But I had used up all my chances, spent all my goodwill, burned every bridge in my desperate need to prove how modern and confident I was. Instead, I watched him walk away with the quiet dignity he had maintained throughout our entire marriage. The dignity I had tried to strip from him with my public performance of our private life. My phone buzzed with a notification. Someone had tagged me in a post about social media disasters and influencer meltdowns. I was now a cautionary tale, a meme, an example of what not to do. I turned off the phone and walked to my car, alone. 6 months ago, I had thought I was smarter than everyone else, more progressive, more confident, more modern. I had believed that traditional boundaries were for insecure people, that real love meant having no limits, no jealousy, no rules. I had been wrong about everything. I had invited my ex-boyfriend to coach my husband, thinking it would prove how secure our marriage was. Instead, I had handed him the tools to destroy it. I had prioritized the validation of strangers over the feelings of my family. I had chosen performance over authenticity, drama over stability, attention over love, and now I was alone, exactly as I deserved to be. The last thing I saw as I drove away from the courthouse was Harlon helping Maya into his car, both of them moving forward into a life that no longer included me. I had lost everything, and it was entirely my own fault.